rain started somewhere outside Scranton and never really stopped after that. Not heavy at first, just a steady mist that smeared the windshield and turned the interstate into a tunnel of reflected headlights and black pavement. I'd been driving for almost 6 hours by then, coming back from Cleveland after helping my older brother move into his new apartment. By midnight, the caffeine had stopped working and every green highway exit sign looked the same. I remember checking the GPS and seeing I still had about 90 minutes left before home. Then I missed my exit. It sounds stupid now, but the sign came out of nowhere through the rain, and by the time I realized it was mine, I was already past the split. The GPS recalculated immediately, rerouting. A thin blue line appeared across the screen. It told me to continue another 11 miles, then take exit 14. I almost ignored it and kept driving until the next major town. But I was exhausted. My shoulders hurt, my eyes burned. I just wanted to get home. So I stayed on the interstate. Traffic thinned out more the farther I drove. Eventually there were no other headlights at all. Just darkness beyond the guardrails and the constant hiss of tires on wet asphalt. When exit 14 finally appeared, it barely looked real. The sign was old and half-reflective, the lettering washed pale by years of weather. Exit 14. No town name underneath, just the number. The off-ramp curved sharply into dense trees, and for some reason I hesitated before taking it. I can't explain why. Nothing had happened yet, but something about the exit felt unfinished, like I'd turned onto a road that hadn't been used in a long time. The GPS instructed me to continue straight for 8 miles. I was confused. I thought it would just turn right around and get back on the highway again. I was annoyed when I realized that the darn GPS was taking me on some podunk local route. In my annoyance, I almost didn't notice that I didn't pass another car. The road narrowed almost immediately after exit ramp. Trees crowded close to both sides, branches bending over the pavement like ribs. Rainwater pooled in shallow dips across the road. My headlights kept catching old telephone poles leaning at strange angles in the dark. Then the radio started cutting out. At first it was just static between stations, then entire songs vanished halfway through. Then even the static faded. Silence filled the car so completely I could suddenly hear every tiny mechanical sound. The fan pushing weak heat through the vents, the rubber drag of windshield wipers. The GPS froze. The map disappeared entirely. A gray grid replaced it. No signal. Perfect, I muttered. I picked up my phone. No service. That was the first moment I considered turning around. But almost immediately after the thought crossed my mind, I saw lights ahead through the rain. A town, small, quiet, mostly dark. Relief hit me harder than I expected. I remember actually laughing under my breath. The first thing I passed was a gas station sitting alone at the edge of town. Only one pump was lit. The fluorescent canopy lights buzzed softly in the rain. An old neon open sign flickered weakly in the window. Beyond it, the town stretched along a single main road. A closed hardware store. Dark storefronts with faded lettering. Further up was a diner that looked open. Everything looked old. Not abandoned. Just worn down in a way that made it hard to guess what decade you were looking at. There were cars parked along the street, but almost no movement. No people outside. No music, no traffic lights, only the rain. I pulled into the gas station to get directions and maybe a snack. The convenience store inside was tiny. Half the shelves were empty. The coffee machine sat dark in the corner. A man stood behind the counter reading a newspaper. He looked up when I entered. Mid-60s, maybe. Heavy jacket. Tired eyes. Evening, I said. He nodded once. Can you tell me how to get back to the interstate? The question changed his expression immediately. Not dramatically, but enough. His eyes flicked toward the windows, then toward the clock on the wall behind me. 1:17 a.m. You came in from the East Road? He asked. I think so. You miss your exit? Yeah. He stared at me for another second. Then he said, Roads flood easy out here. I just need the interstate. Another glance at the clock. You should wait till morning. I laughed a little. I really just want directions. His jaw tightened. You won't find them tonight. I remember irritation rising in my chest then. The kind that comes from being exhausted and trapped in a conversation that suddenly feels strange. For no reason. Look, I said. I've been driving for 6 hours. I'm tired. My GPS died. I just need the highway. He looked genuinely uncomfortable now. Not threatening, afraid. Finally, he reached beneath the counter and pulled out a folded paper map. He opened it and traced a road with one thick finger. Take Main north until the old mill, he said quietly. Stay right at the split. Don't take the lower road. Okay. You'll see signs for Route 81. Thank you. He didn't let go of the map immediately. Then he said something that stayed with me long after. If you come back here again tonight, he said, don't leave a second time. I waited for him to smile. He didn't. I drove north through town. The roads were nearly empty now. I passed the diner. Inside, maybe 4 people sat scattered across booths beneath dim hanging lights. Nobody was eating. They just sat there staring into coffee cups or out rain-streaked windows. One woman looked up as I passed. Not curious, worried. The old mill appeared about 10 minutes later exactly where the man said it would. A rusted old building beside a river swollen black with rainwater. The road split ahead. I stayed right. For a while, everything seemed normal. Trees thinned. The road widened slightly. Then I passed the gas station again. I actually frowned in confusion before I fully recognized it. Same flickering neon sign, same single lit pump, same dent in the ice machine outside. I slowed almost to a stop. No, I whispered. Maybe there were two gas stations. Maybe I'd taken a wrong turn somewhere. I kept driving. This time I didn't stop. I continued through town again, more quickly now, trying to ignore the knot tightening in my stomach. At the far end of town, I found another road leading west. No split this time. No mill. I took it immediately. 15 minutes later, I passed the diner again. The exact same woman sat in the exact same booth. That was when real panic started creeping in. Not movie panic, not screaming. Just that slow, cold sensation when your brain begins realizing something impossible may actually be happening. I pulled over beneath a dead streetlight and checked my phone again. Still no signal. The time read 1:22 a.m. I stared at it. I knew at least 40 minutes had passed. I checked the dashboard clock. 1:51. Then it switched suddenly to 1:23. Like it had corrected itself. Rain hammered softly against the roof. I became aware then of how empty the town really was. No dogs barking, no distant highway noise, no trains, nothing. I drove back to the gas station. The old man saw me through the window before I even got out. His shoulders sagged when I walked inside. "You left twice," he said softly. "What is this place?" Nobody spoke for a moment. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Finally, I said, "The roads keep bringing me back here." He nodded once like he'd expected it. "There's a motel 2 streets over." "I don't want a motel. You should stay till daylight." "Why?" He looked past me toward the dark windows again. Then he lowered his voice. "Because the roads get worse after 2. I almost snapped at him then. What does that even mean? But before he could answer, the lights flickered. Not a normal flicker. They dimmed long enough for the entire store to sink into near darkness. And during that second, I thought I saw movement outside beyond the pumps. Tall shapes standing motionless at the edge of the rain. The lights returned instantly. Nothing was there. I swallowed hard. The old man had gone pale. "What was that?" "You need to stay inside tonight." "What was that?" He rubbed a trembling hand across his mouth. "People think this town keeps folks trapped here," he said quietly. Another flicker. This one shorter. His eyes stayed fixed on the windows. "But it's the roads you should be afraid of." Something about the way he said it stripped away the last bit of skepticism I had left. Not because it sounded supernatural, because it sounded exhausted. Like a man repeating something he wished wasn't true, I decided to head to the motel. Mostly because I didn't know what else to do. The motel sat behind the diner beneath a broken vacancy sign, missing half its letters. Only 3 cars occupied the lot, all of them old. One was coated so heavily in dust and dirt that I initially thought it had been abandoned for years. The clerk handed me a key without asking for ID. "Don't go outside after 2, she said. Same tone, not threatening, pleading. Inside the room, I locked both deadbolts immediately. The place smelled faintly of mildew and stale cigarette smoke. I sat on the edge of the bed staring at the muted television while rain tapped steadily against the windows. The clock beside the bed blinked 1:38, then 2:11, then 1:41 again. I unplugged it. Sometime later, I noticed headlights moving slowly outside through the curtains. I stood carefully and looked through the blinds. A truck was crawling down the road, not driving normally, searching. Its headlights swept slowly across buildings and parked cars like a spotlight. The truck itself looked wrong somehow, too dark, too large, its shape difficult to focus on through the rain. Then it stopped, directly across from the motel. My stomach dropped. Something stood beside the road near the truck. Tall, perfectly still. I couldn't make out details. Only a silhouette beneath the rain. Then every light in the motel flickered simultaneously. The figure vanished. The truck continued slowly down the street until darkness swallowed it again. I didn't sleep after that. At around what I thought was dawn, the rain finally stopped. Pale gray light spread slowly across the sky, and suddenly everything changed. My phone chimed with notifications. 3 bars of service appeared. The GPS reloaded. Traffic sounds echoed faintly in the distance. I nearly cried from relief. I packed immediately and left the motel. The town looked different in daylight, smaller, less threatening, almost ordinary. The diner had closed. The gas station sat dark. Nobody stood outside. I followed the GPS directions back toward the interstate. This time the roads made sense. No loops. No repeating landmarks. Within 20 minutes, I reached the highway. Actual traffic passed me. A semi-truck roared by, spraying mist across my windshield. I laughed out loud. The radio worked again, too. Morning talk shows, weather reports, normal life. I kept driving south for almost an hour before finally beginning to calm down. I even started convincing myself exhaustion had distorted the entire experience. Maybe the roads were confusing. Maybe I'd panicked. Maybe... Then I saw the sign. Green reflective paint. Weathered edges. Exit 14. 2 miles. My hands tightened on the wheel. "No," I whispered. The GPS continued calmly forward. I passed a familiar broken billboard beside the road, then the old leaning telephone poles. My pulse began hammering. No, no, no. Fog drifted low across the highway ahead, and through it I saw the faint glow of fluorescent lights, one gas pump, a flickering neon open sign, waiting beside the road exactly where I'd left it. If this one got under your skin, there are more waiting. Subscribe to the leather-bound grimoire